So, what is masculinity? What does masculinity mean to you two? I don't know who wants to go first, but Jay, it's you.
So there's two ends to this. I think we've had similar conversations. So the first one to me is about responsibility. So being responsible for number one, ultimately yourself. And then once you're able to be responsible yourself, you're then responsible for the world around you. So for instance, kids, protecting kids and the family unit, being able to see queens and feminines in their essence and protect that. So for instance, when it's time of the month, how do you respond rather than react? And that's about ultimate responsibility. That's really hard in this time because of the power plays that are happening. But there's a part of me that's like, I don't truly know, because I've never had that rites of passage where I've been able to kind of, I know what I know within my context, but I've come from a traumatic background, so how could I truly know if I haven't had a proper pathway? Not to say that mine isn't, but just seeing how certain people carry themselves. Also, to be masculine is not to prove that you're masculine, it's just to be. And within that essence, your power will speak in itself. So you see it with this battle around alpha and beta, and a lot of the time these alpha males in our society seem to think they have to beat their chest and fight and be aggressive and be dominant physically, and it's not about that, because when you meet these characters, you can look them in the eye and look into their soul and collapse them through the very essence of being vulnerable. I can be vulnerable and collapse you. And that tells me you're not an alpha then, are you? Because you don't understand your true essence. You're not able to understand that you have dark and light and embrace both. So for me, like a true, in my state of mind now, and it probably doesn't fit a lot of society, it's about understanding the self, having awareness of self, and ultimately responsible for the world around you.
What do you think masculinity looks like in today's society? What do you feel like it looks like for you? Or what you see?
There's a lot of men that try to project this idea of that, and it's phony. It's like, who taught you? Who told you? Because I'm sure the same people who indoctrinated me indoctrinated you. And your thing is more say so like, oh, I'm a certain type of man, and if you're not this way inclined, then you ain't a man. And I'm just like, who the fuck are you? Like, there are not a lot of men that I even rate as men. So you can't necessarily tell me what masculinity is, because your version, it sounds like some crap. So I don't really focus on masculinity. I feel like me being me, I just do what I do, and I do it to the best of my ability. And people will say, oh, well, you ain't masculine enough, or they may say, yo, you got this. But either way, I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna allow someone to pull the wool over my eyes and give me their version of. I create my own.
So what do you guys think about the term toxic masculinity? And do you think
toxic.
It is?
Whether you're a man or female, you're toxic. And I don't understand why the people add on these things to sound clever. Remove it and simplify it, and it's toxic. And you can be toxic to a woman, and that's it. Like, to yourselves, that's it. Like, if someone's being toxic externally, they're obviously toxic inside. So whatever you're doing externally is a mirror of what's going on in. And so my problem with the whole masculine is we have these kind of like titles we align with masculinity. And it's like, simplify this shit, man.
It's status, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like,
status.
like in order to be classed as, I must have or I must do. No, but who told you that? As I said, you didn't get that like by yourself. Like, have you even consciously brought that down and assessed it for what it actually is? It's just words. It's just words. And to me, it means nothing.
Whether you're masculine or feminine, we still are masculine. You can't take it away. Whether you call it whatever, we are masculine. It's just however you present that masculinity. And I think who's to say that ultimate masculinity isn't about being kind or some of these kind of softer,
which is the feminine
sounding
aspect.
things. Yeah. So, but
being.
who's to say it's not that?
Yeah.
Is that it's having a bit of feminine, embracing it, and
The
when
balance.
you need to protect and because you can't be that all the time.
Do you think the lack of masculine energy in the home affects a young boy growing up?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't have a father around like that,
Me neither.
so you long for it, whether you like it or not. You just long for that manly energy because you don't have it. It's a lack of, and then you assume what you can about what you should be doing as a man, and you
Based
make
on, I know obviously you're
Or
saying it's
on
assumption, but it's
TV.
still based upon,
that
okay.
TV or
So society.
dysfunction. Your idea of a man might be looking out the window and seeing a guy beat on a woman, and then that's your idea of that's what a man is: control a woman, dominate. That's not.
And if your if your dad is your hero, you're gonna be on one where it's like, yo, I wanna be like you and I'm gonna move like you. So for someone like me who never had that father figure around, I kind of feel like, say, as much as I may have missed out, I absolutely did not, because I got to look at my father and where he is, and I'm like, that's not what I want to be. And I'm in a better place than you ever was, and I've got to do things that you couldn't do. Now, as much as that may seem like, he lacked, he actually did his job, whether he knew it or not, because I outdone him. So it doesn't really matter how he is right now. He deserves that. So he can be proud and happy and say, you know what, as much as I wasn't there and maybe I should have been, maybe you shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to judge when there's so much more going on than the nuclear, but I think it is necessary when you see the duality and how it works when you have a mother and a father in a lot of these children's lives. There's power in it. You just see it. You see the benefit of it. But when you have parents, a pair that rents and are split up, you can see how that can impact someone whose spirit is not resilient enough to kind of overcome those barriers. So a lot of people who don't have a father figure tend to then build up a toxic kind of relationship with men or with other men. So like even on daughters if they don't have a positive relationship with their father, they tend to start to see how they can find that in their relationship, and that can become very toxic, and often traumatizing, because these guys can't be your father, but in men, for me, that rites of passage thing is so important, because it's like there's certain things that have to be passed down. They just have, it's imperative to keep. So like, let's look at the royal family. The royal family, they do not like to mix out of the family, because there's certain things that they need to pass on within the family. And that's happened in lots of tribes, but it's slowly getting diluted. And it's why some of our cultures are being disconnected from themselves and losing like the essence of, you know, for instance, holistic health, knowing how to communicate with the world around you to heal or to relate or to recover or to re-energize and all these things. And these are things that are passed down, and that is through your forefathers or your foremothers. And so that is, for me, when you've got this kind of broken home pair that rents, not a mother and a father, because you've got mother earth, father sky, and we're losing that. And so that's why I think it's imperative, because we mirror the world around us. We mirror the universe that is created in our world right now. So when you don't have a father around, that's representing the lack of what you could be learning from Father Sky. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm going a bit deeper.
So I was gonna say, for me, I understand that as beings we have a masculine energy and a female energy. It's not nothing to do with gender, really. So your masculine is usually your doing energy, and your feminine is usually the creative, the internal. So when we think about parenthood, a lot of women are always in their masculine because it's a fatherless home. So always in our doing energy. So do you think, when we look at toxic masculinity, do you think it's the denying of the feminine energy that men have in them? Because I honestly feel men have a nurturing energy. I feel like men do have a healing energy if they allow it to be and they respect the feminine in them. So do you think that toxic masculinity may come from the denying of the feminine energy within themselves?
Again, it's just toxic, because you're denying something that's
within you,
that a capability that you can open. It's just toxic, because women could do the same. Women can overexert in masculine energy with their kids, thinking,
yes, of
this
course,
is how I need to dominate.
Yes.
And then kids are like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And then a man will come and just be present, and you see kids and they're like, what the fuck do you do that I don't do? But it's just, there's just something in it. But they're like, yeah, I just think it's toxic. I don't think it's toxic masculinity necessarily. Right, okay. It's just, you're not embracing the side that you have access to. And that's about self-awareness. It's like, you know, if you're not self-aware, you're not going to understand. You can access the nurture. Like, I'm quite, because I was raised by queens, I'm quite in tune with like, oh, there's a feminine side which I use to kind of nurture. So the vulnerability side comes from the feminine side, but then the dominance is about, I'm not just going to stay here and suffer. We're going to move through this. But people don't understand that. And so, no, like, people can label it whatever they want, but if they don't have self-awareness and what it means to them, then there's no growth for them. Yeah. It's just toxic. Whether it's masculine or feminine, I don't know. That's my opinion.
Hey?
Listen, he's done it again, innit? Wrap up. He's done it